Now available for the first time in paperback. Stop simping in the workplace. Men, learn what you need to know in order to protect your job from workplace predators with Stop Simping in the Workplace. Available in paperback at online booksellers everywhere. White feminists are oftentimes the biggest hypocrites in the room, and oftentimes they only go out to protest what they call male oppression only when it can lead to them getting attention and access to financial resources. Now, when it comes down to this white feminist, she often plays both sides and only plays, again, those both sides in the hopes of getting attention and access to resources for herself. She is not really about empowering women. She is about exploiting a situation and capitalizing on an opportunity for herself. And an example of this was shown to me on the Channel 11 news on Friday night. And this report detailed how Gloria Steinem decided she and a group of feminists were going to go protest a PornHub pop-up shop that had opened in Manhattan. And she said she was going to protest this PornHub pop-up shop in Manhattan because it was selling things that were degrading to women. Now, this PornHub pop-up shop had been open for a while, and in a previous report, Channel 11 reported about how this Pornhub shop was all about women's sexual expression and people's sexual freedom. And in this second report, they decided to report where Gloria Steinem goes down to march and protest, and she's protesting saying that this Pornhub pop-up shop is degrading to women because it is selling sexual items such as handcuffs and other items used for restraint. Now, I listened to this report and I saw nothing but hypocrisy from your Gloria Steinem, because your Gloria Steinem is supposed to be the ultimate feminist, and she says that a woman has her own body and she has the right to do whatever she wants with her body. So if she wants to go out here and buy these handcuffs and other materials like these restraints and things like that, then isn't that her choice? Because isn't that what you said you were fighting for? Now, I listened to her argument, and she says it's degrading to women, but why is it degrading to women? Because I noticed that we never heard from your Gloria Steinem back in the 1970s or the 1980s when Times Square was littered with all sorts of stores that were selling pornographic items and sex toys and restraints and handcuffs. No, we did not hear from your Gloria Steinem back then. However, in 2017, when a PornHub website pop-up store decides to open up, a store that probably makes millions of dollars and a website that makes millions of dollars, your Gloria Steinem all of a sudden is popping up to protest this store. And her making that appearance to protest this store shows how hypocritical she truly is, because we didn't hear from your Gloria Steinem for over 30 years when Times Square was literally a cesspool filled with all of these sex shops which sold the exact same materials as this Pornhub pop-up store. Because back in those days, these porn shops were all over Times Square. I know because when I used to go to high school back in the day, I used to walk by quite a few of them. And again, these were small, low-rent places, and they didn't really make that much money because, again, they were low rent. And they weren't on Gloria Steinem's radar back then because, one, her narrative was all about women having the right to do whatever they want, and two, these stores made very little money compared to what she was looking to get from the big paydays she was looking for with these corporations, because her whole game is all about getting the big dollars, not the small dollars. And Pornhub is a place that is meant for her to get the big dollars from, because she looks at this Pornhub.com, one of the more popular websites that looks like it's getting ready to go mainstream, and she's going to go protest it because they are making money, and also they have gotten positive attention from the mainstream media. Two things your white feminist usually wants from any sort of situation she wants to capitalize on, which is access to economic resources and attention. So that was the only reason why Gloria Steinem decided she wanted to go out here and lead this protest against this PornHub pop-up store. And as she was making this protest, and these women were making their little cornball speeches, again, it was all about talking about how the items in this store were so offensive to women. Now, I listened to that argument again, and it doesn't wash with me because all the items in those old Times Square stores weren't offensive to you, and they sold literally the exact same things, because you could go to an Empire Erotica on 34th and in between 5th and 6th, and they sell the exact same items as this PornHub store. So I listened to that argument, and it doesn't wash with me. I mean, this Empire Erotica you don't have a problem with, but PornHub.com you have a problem with. And the only reason why you have a problem with PornHub.com is because they make more money than Empire Erotica. And you can't get any press from Empire Erotica. You can only get press from PornHub.com. Again, showing us how hypocritical your Gloria Steinem is, and how hypocritical many of your feminists truly are. Now, as this report went on, these women sat there and they were going, one black woman decided to go into extra salty tears, talking about how she had been abused as part of the sex industry, and how she had been attacked in the sex industry and made herself out to be some sort of victim. And I listened to that part, and again, it showed me more hypocrisy from white feminists and from some of these black feminists, because I noticed that we see all these females sitting there talking about how this store is exploiting women and degrading women, but I notice we never hear from these black women or your Gloria Steinem again about this Ghetto Gaggers website. Now, this Ghetto Gaggers website has been up for 7 to 8 years now, and not a single word has been said about this website, which promotes sexual violence and sexual assault against women, but they all have a problem with PornHub, a website and a pop-up store which just sells merchandise that caters to certain people's sexual fantasies. But they have no problem with a website that has been up for several years. I mean, where is Gloria Steinem on your Ghetto Gaggers? Again, if she's supposed to be such a staunch feminist and supposed to be all about women's rights, you would think she would be the one leading the charge against Ghetto Gaggers and trying to get black women to help her shut down that website, in the same way she had this black woman at her side sitting there talking about this PornHub store, which is just a pop-up store and will be gone by the end of the year. They're all upset about this store, but they're not upset about this Ghetto Gaggers website. Again, showing us the hypocrisy that these feminists participate in. If it's not about access to attention and resources, then it's not women's rights for them. The only time that they're all about women's rights is when the time is right for them, and the only time that it's right for them is when there's time for them to get access to big money and big dollars, which shows us, again, your feminist is nothing more than a hypocrite, and she's someone who's trying to play both sides in order to get equal economic opportunity for herself and not equal empowerment for women. Because when I look at them protesting a PornHub store and then not saying anything about the Times Square sex shops back in the day, or saying anything about this Ghetto Gaggers website, it shows how Gloria Steinem's argument falls flat, and how many of these feminists fall flat in their so-called fight for women's rights. The only time is right for them to fight for women's rights seems to be only when there's a lot of money involved or some corporation involved, and not when women are actually being oppressed and degraded. Because they sat there and talked about sexual harassment and sexual assault and all these sexual harassment scandals going on, but they didn't, again, say anything about this Ghetto Gaggers website, a website that has been broadcasting for over 8 years and literally has degraded black women and promoted the sexual assault and sexual violence against black women, and has promoted racism against black women. But not a single word has been said from your Gloria Steinem when she had the opportunity to do something about it or say something about it. No, she's too upset about a PornHub pop-up store that is no different than any other store that was in Times Square back in the 80s, or back in the 70s or the early 90s that had been, and some of them that have been there for years, like your Empire Erotica, which has been there for years. And she had no problem with those stores, but she's got a problem with this one, which sells the exact same merchandise as those stores. But again, the only reason why she's there is because this store is making millions of dollars, and this store is getting mainstream media attention. Again, showing us the hypocrisy of these feminists and how they talk about the sexual freedom and sexual expression and equality for women, but the only equality they want is the equality that fits the narrative of the story they're trying to frame, and the only story they're trying to frame is the one where they can be a victim and make money at the expense of some corporation or some wealthy person. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS direct titles, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.